Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. So as you can see, I've had my little daughter. Her name is Cecilia and she's sleeping very peacefully right now, so I thought now would be a good time to talk you through my birth story. So in some of the last videos you will have seen that I really advocated for a natural birth and had all of my techniques for that. I read a lot as well, really tried to inform myself on everything, even not natural birth. I tried to inform myself on what all the medications do, C-sections, everything like that, just so I was really educated. And I'm very thankful that I did, because my birth, as does many, didn't quite go to plan. So it got to my due date, which was the 9th, and that day I had to go in for a growth scan just to double check that everything was all right with her, and then they'd asked me if I wanted to have a membrane sweep, and I was just so ready and so excited to go into labour at that point that I said yes. I knew that there wasn't really much risk involved. I had looked at it. They literally just sweep around with their finger just to kind of get things going. And that day nothing happened. Didn't have any contractions or anything like that. Got to the next day though, however, and I started to get cramps here and there, so I was like, oh, maybe this is something. So I was kind of bouncing around on my little ball, just trying to get things moving, like working around. And then it got to that night, so it was probably around 8 or 8:30 at night, and I started to get like actual contractions. Like I knew that that's what it was, and I just had a bath just before that, with a little bit of lavender to try and get things moving as well, so maybe that helped, because I started cramping just after that. So again, we were just like, right, we sat up together, bouncing on the ball, watching TV, and then my waters went. So I think I went to the bathroom and they went a little bit in there and came back, and I was sitting on the ball, and then they went as well, and I was like, right, okay, this is definitely labour now. But I didn't want to go into hospital obviously just yet. The contractions weren't really close together and they weren't extremely intense or anything, so bouncing on the ball for a bit. But because I kept losing my waters, and then they eventually did get a bit closer together, I thought, right, probably should go to the hospital just to double check, just to see what's going on. So we put all of our stuff in the car. I think that's what we did that night, I can't remember. We put the stuff in the car because I was convinced that that was it. We were going to go there and I was going to stay and things were just going to progress so nicely. By the time I got to the hospital, the contractions were strong. They were getting quite strong. So they took me to this little waiting room in the pregnancy assessment unit, and I just waited for somebody to come and check me over. So I was on the bed, I was doing my breathing, really trying to breathe through these contractions because they were getting to be something, but I was so excited at the same time, just because I knew that I was going to meet my little daughter soon. So I was just so ready to just get everything going. And I thought, oh, they're going to tell me to stay in, and they're going to be like, yeah, this is it. Like, I was just like optimistic. Came in, having my contractions, I was in pain. Somebody came and examined me just to see where I was. I'd explained that my waters had broken. And they were like, yeah, you're only 1 centimetre dilated. I was like, what? So obviously I knew, being 1 centimetre dilated, that you can't stay in the hospital then. Like, it could be God knows how long. So went home. They were just like, just go home, try and get yourself some sleep, have another bath, like try and get through everything. So I did. I went home, had a bath. They were getting quite strong as well at that point. So I'm doing my hypnobirth and I'm really focusing, I'm breathing through everything. Try to get some sleep that night, and it's just, you can't really when you're having contractions. Like, I would sleep for like a little bit if I had like a little bit of relief in between, but then it would just rise, the contractions would rise up, and I'd have to breathe like through everything and then try and go back to sleep again. So it was just that constantly, really. But I think I am all over the place with this, so I do apologise, like my brain's just like bleh. I think that they had said when I had left that night that I did have an appointment to be induced, yeah, something like that, just in case, because they don't like to leave you like going through your contractions and everything when your waters have been broken for too long, because there's a risk of infection and then there's a risk of that getting to the baby, so they really like to keep a close eye on that. So I had an appointment to come in at like 4 o'clock or something, I think, to be induced. But they were hoping that maybe I could just get into like labour myself, because I wasn't in actual established labour yet. You're not in established labour until you're 4 centimetres dilated. So yeah, this will be the 11th, and so I've been in, I say that I was in labour since like the 10th at night, because I've been feeling the contractions since then. So I was just bouncing around on the ball in the hospital, trying to get things moving. The midwives were great, they were just like, get yourself going, all that kind of stuff. And I was convinced, I was like, right, okay, like I'm gonna get this sorted. I'm gonna dilate, everything's gonna be brilliant. No. It turned out it wasn't at that point. I got to like 3 centimetres dilated, I think, when they checked me, and I thought that that was really good, because I only needed to get to 4. I just needed to get to 4, and then I was in established labour, and then things would just speed along after that, is what I thought. But it turns out that that didn't happen either. So I was really, really trying just to get through everything by myself. The contractions were getting so intense. I felt like I'd been in labour for like a full-on 2 days at this point, pretty much. I'd had no sleep, couldn't eat. I was already exhausted at this point, but I was really trying to do everything on my own. I didn't really want to have any interventions unless I really needed to. But it got to the point they did have to induce me, just because my labour was progressing so slowly. Like I wasn't dilating at all. And then with the risk of infection with her water being broke, with the waters being broke, they knew that they had to do it, so they were bumping up the Pitocin, and boy, that stuff is a killer. It starts off all right, but obviously they put it like higher and higher and higher, like to get you to contract, and it was just, like you had absolutely no break in between. Yeah, no break in between. They were really strong, my God. Like I knew it was going to be, it's a pain that you can't even describe, like you really can't. Bearable, but getting to the point of not, like I couldn't even get through my breath at some point with it as well. It was quite intense, and I was in so much pain, and I hadn't had any sleep for God knows how long. It was just such a long time, and when you haven't slept at all and you haven't ate anything, then because you can't eat anything at this point, like what are you gonna do? So after being induced, and I'd been induced for a while, and nothing was happening, they kept checking me and I just wasn't progressing. So I've been in labour for a really, really long time at this point, and I was in so much pain, and after being induced as well, which I didn't want, and then everything was just getting to be quite a lot. I gave in and I had some diamorphine, which it doesn't take like the contractions away completely, but it does dull them down a bit. And because I was literally like bam, 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 having contractions like extremely close together because of the Pitocin, like I didn't have any break in whatsoever. They would come up, down. It would be like a second, and then it would be up, down, and I just really, really couldn't cope with it. And I did try my very best for the whole other time that I was in labour for, because I was in labour, well, having contractions anyway, for like 2 days on no sleep. So I really, really did give it my all, but I couldn't in the end. I was so sleep deprived and hungry. I had no energy. The Pitocin is very intense, so I had to do something. If I was going to get through this, because I really wanted to have as much of a natural birth as possible. I wanted to be able to push her out, and the only way that I was going to do that, and the only way that I was going to survive through it, is if I had something just to dull the pain a bit. So I had that, and that did help. Like, it didn't help an extreme amount, but it was definitely a relief, that's for sure. And helped me be able to control my breathing again, because I was losing control of it because of how fast everything was coming. Yeah, and it was just a lot of hours and hours and hours of contractions and waiting and being examined, and then monitoring her heartbeat and having a look at her to see where she was, and it was just a lot of time. And obviously my partner was there as well with me, and he was in the same boat really. Like, he was such a good support. And I always get like emotional now over everything, but no, he really supported me through everything. I definitely couldn't have done any of it without him, and he really, really is like my biggest advocate, and he would help me through everything, and no matter what I did, he was always on my side, whatever choice that I made. He knew that I wanted to have a natural birth, obviously, but he knew that I was getting to the point of completely breaking, because we didn't think that it would last this long. So it was just hours and hours and hours of me contracting and nothing happening. They would check me and I wouldn't even be dilated after a few hours. The closest that I think I got to 5 centimeters once, and I was like super excited about it, but then nothing happened again for hours. And then I got to 9 centimeters, and I was like, okay, this is it. This is like the point now. Like, I'm totally gonna get to 10 centimeters and it's gonna be fine. And it just wasn't happening. It was another few hours of that as well, trying to get to 10 centimeters, but every time that they would check me, they would be like, oh, she's, like, I would be fully effaced, and they could see her head, and they could see that she was really trying to like push down to get out, but it wasn't happening. My cervix was like very lipped over her head, even though I was 9 centimeters, it was still quite over, so there was no way that I would obviously be able to push. And then even with the Pitocin, they'd stopped it for a bit and started it again, like just to give me like a little bit of a break, but then my contractions just slowed down completely, pretty much. Like, I was having them bam, 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 and then it was just like nothing, so obviously it wasn't helping me dilate, so they'd bump it back up, and then it was coming really fast again, but it was still not doing anything. And we were just kind of, I was just quite defeated at this point. I didn't know what to do. I didn't understand why it wasn't working. I was getting into all the positions that I could, and I was breathing through everything, and I was really giving it my all. and it wasn't happening. Oh, I forgot to say, I think it was, well, it must have been a few hours before that, because it was just so intensely bad. I was throwing up because of the pain, because the diamorphine doesn't last very long. It only lasts for about like 2 hours, and then even then, when you have it, it doesn't completely numb everything anyway. It just dulls it down, but then it went pretty quick. So because I'd been in labour for so long, nothing was happening, no progression, nothing. I had an epidural, because I just couldn't. But even with the epidural, it worked really, really well, but I still had this like one really, really intense pain on my back, on the right lower side. And I was like, I thought, oh, like it's a contraction, like I'm feeling it in my back, but they were saying that it's not, it was her trying to rotate or something and move down, and she was like really grinding like onto my back. So I had to have the epidural, which again, you know, I really didn't want to do. I wanted to do like this natural birth, and I was convinced that I can do it, and I know that I could have done. I definitely could have done if it wasn't as long and grueling as it was. But you know, these things happen, and I tried my best, and I can't beat myself up about it, so I won't. But I literally cried everything, so I'm trying not to cry. So yeah, it wasn't working, nothing was working, and I had a couple of doctors come in and examine me as well, and they were keeping an eye on her heart rate. So another reason that things didn't quite go to plan as well is because her heart rate kept going low and then high, and it didn't have a consistent line. So instead of being consistently at one rhythm that they were happy with, it was like up, down, and then when I was having a contraction, it seemed like she was getting like distressed with my contractions as well. And because of that, and because of how long my waters had been broken for, they'd been broken for like over 24 hours now, and because I also spiked a bit of a temperature as well, I got to like 37 point something, they really wanted to get her out, because nothing was changing, nothing was working, and with all of these other factors as well, they just didn't want to put her at risk, so they needed to get her out. So I had to, but you know, consent to getting a C-section. So, you know, the birth just went in the complete opposite direction to what I thought. But you know, I had read up on the C-sections anyway, and I knew what they involved and how it worked, and I'm really glad that I tried to educate myself on a load of different outcomes just in case. But at that point, because of just how exhausted I was and how defeated I felt, and how like everything just wasn't going to plan, which is so silly, because obviously you shouldn't really plan birth, as they say. It's like more of a birth wish, but none of my wishes were coming. So I consented to have a C-section, and they took me straight away. Now, I have to say that I'm so glad that I was in the hospital that I was in. All of the medical staff and the midwives and the doctors and everything, they were absolutely amazing, and they were so supportive. Like, before I went in for the C-section, I just broke down. I was crying because I was just so tired, and I was scared, and it had been a long few days. And they supported me through it the whole time. The midwife that was with me, she was so lovely. She came with me to have a C-section. She was like, I'm not going to leave you. Obviously, like, Bernardo was there as well. Yeah, so obviously it's been a few minutes, but yeah, as I was saying, like, the midwives and doctors, even the anesthesiologist, was really supportive. They were there like the whole time, making sure that I was okay. They brought Bernardo in like as quick as possible so he could sit with me. Oh, hold that thought. threw up a little bit. But yeah, they were all really supportive, and I couldn't have asked to be in better care. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with how all of that went. Having a C-section was definitely a very weird experience. I mean, it's odd. Having it wasn't bad because obviously you're completely numb. Like I think I was numb from probably here down. So obviously I didn't feel anything. You just feel like a lot of pressure going on. But then it's just like anticipation. Like I couldn't have been in there very long anyway. Like they said that she would be in and out within like, I can't even remember, less than 5 minutes. They said that she would be out. I couldn't believe how quick it was. The process beforehand is a bit longer because obviously they need to give you a spinal block and prepare you, make sure everything's done, get you on the table, like all that kind of thing. The only thing that made me panic a little bit was just how numb I was, because you can't move, and then you feel it up into your chest a bit, so it feels like a bit difficult to breathe, even though you breathing, you're fine. And then they always like check you, and then one of the anesthetics guys was like, oh, just like squeeze my finger, like just to make sure everything's like feeling all right and all that kind of stuff. So but then, God, I am like such a mug now, like you just cry at everything. And then I heard her cry. We've got like clips and videos that I'll and pictures and stuff that I'll have in this video, but where you can see these things. But then I heard her cry, and they were trying to like tell me like what she looked like and stuff, and then they brought her over the thing and put her like directly on me, because they were like, do you want skin to skin? I was like, yes. Like immediately. And so emotional, but and she's just perfect. Like finally getting to see her face. Yeah. she's perfect. And I couldn't believe that she was eventually here. I feel like I went through such a long process. And obviously labor is emotional anyway, regardless, but I just went through, I feel like it was just so long and I was so tired, and I was just so ready to have her, and there she was, and it was just perfect. And then Bernardo was obviously right next to me, and I just couldn't believe that I eventually had, or I have even, like my own little family. So like I was looking at her and I was looking at him, and I just couldn't believe how, and I still can't believe how lucky I am to have both of them. I have like a perfect daughter. She's everything that I could ever have wanted, and I love her so much. And I have a partner who I love more than anything. He's my best friend. He's everything that I could ever want, and I'm so lucky. I'm just so lucky to have him and to have her as well. So, oh my God, is this just what it's like now? She's nearly a week old, and I think I cry like pretty much every day at some point. Anything sets me up. But yeah, I mean, like, I'll do a video on how I've been coping with my C-section as well, just like recovery. I know everybody's different. but I will do a video about that, and how I've found the experience. I feel 10 times better now, but the first few days obviously were like really, really intense, and then the night that I had her was quite difficult as well because I couldn't move at all. So Bernardo had to obviously like get up and change her and do a lot of things because I couldn't move. All I could do really was like hold her and feed her. So and we ended up having to stay in the hospital for an extra 3 nights, I want to say, or maybe an extra 2, and that was quite tough because we were fine in there together, but you're confined to a small room, and with COVID you can't like do anything, you can't leave. Like, he basically had to stay with me anyway because I couldn't do anything because of the C-section. I wouldn't have been able to even like walk to pick her up or anything. But it's like, it was more the after experience that was tougher than being in the hospital beforehand, because you just want to go home afterwards. We just wanted to be at home with her and be in our own environment, and that was like, when we got out, it was like just such tremendous relief. So we've been home for like 3 days now, I think, and it's just been so much better just being at home. Yeah, so I've probably rambled on a lot. My brain is absolutely all over the place because of, you know, lack of sleep and emotions and whatnot. And obviously I don't have any makeup on, like I'm just in like chilled out clothes. I did think about putting makeup on for this video, but I'm like, you know, I'm 6 days, I think, postpartum. Like, I really don't feel like putting makeup on right now. I'm definitely getting there. I'll get to feeling like wanting to get like ready and stuff like that, but at the minute, because she feeds so much, obviously I need to just be in comfortable, easy access clothes, and then makeup and whatnot will come later. Like, it does make me feel better, but then I keep thinking about, oh, later on I have to take it off, and like, am I really going to be bothered to do that? Because any chance that you get to sleep, you're sleeping. So but yeah, I just wanted to make this video just because a lot of people go into birth with a plan, kind of like I did, and I was like adamant that like everything would be fine, and I knew that like some variables that you can't control, but generally I thought that I'd be able to have the sort of natural labour that I wanted. But so many things can go awry, and so many tiny little things can affect how your birth is going to be. Like me getting a temperature randomly, or you're dilating but you're not dilating like quick enough. I mean, to be fair, I know a lot of hospitals do kind of rush the whole dilation process, but they really they didn't with me. They really gave me like so much time to dilate, and they were really doing anything that they could to help me dilate on my own, because they knew like how much I wanted that, and they don't want to have to put somebody through something that they don't need to. I mean, that's how I felt at the hospital anyway. They were like not pushy with anything at all. So there's just so many variables, and I feel like it's nice to see other people's birth experiences, because we're all different, and it's just nice. I think it's nice to be able to see kind of like a real raw, like, you know, this is how I am like right now. And yeah, I mean, I wouldn't change it for the whole world though, because it gave me my daughter. Regardless of how she got here, she's healthy, I'm healthy, and that's all that I could ask for in the end. So yeah, I've probably rambled on a lot here. I'm kind of all over the place with dates and times, but yeah, I hope that this video was maybe interesting, or it kind of helped you in some way, made you think a little bit about maybe your birth preferences. yeah, but anyway, I hope that you enjoyed the video, and I hope that this has helped you in some way. I know I've watched like a tremendous amount of birth story videos, birth footage. We did want to have more birth footage, but I mean, in the end, it just got so it just got so stressful, and so many other things were happening, and it was kind of out of our control at that point. But yeah, I hope that this was of some interest to you guys, and we'll have a lot of videos coming soon where I talk about C-section recovery. I really want to do a 24 hours with a newborn as well. I'll be starting to do more day in the life videos, what I used in hospital, what I didn't use, what's been good for me. So yeah, there's lots to come now from this channel, now that little CC is here, and it'll be nice to just document everything on the journey, and I'll always be as honest and real and raw as I can. I know that sometimes motherhood can be a bit more glamorized, which is fine, obviously. Like, it is brilliant, like I love it to death, but you know, it is quite challenging too. So I'll always try to make sure to show those challenges and not to sugarcoat anything, because I know that when I watch videos like that, it helps me a lot. So I hope to see more of you guys in the future. I hope you enjoy this video. I'm sorry that I look an absolute mess, but there we go. So thank you for joining me, and I will see you again soon. Thanks. Bye guys.